Hey everyone! As promised, it's Tuesday night, which means the college football playoff rankings are revealed for tonight's week. It's gonna be a big week 12 of college football this weekend. Should be really exciting. So, yep, here we are starting. I'm at 21 right now, but they're starting. They're starting with the 25th team. SMU's first, and Appalachian State will be 24th because they beat South Carolina. So technically, they still deserve to be ranked just because of that. USC's at 7-4. They're 23rd. Holy crap! A lot of 4-loss teams in the 25. This is actually big, just because there are a lot of teams getting hot at the end. And Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play each other at the end of the year. And Oklahoma State is actually at 21, so that could actually be a ranked versus ranked matchup and a potential Saturday night game. If what Minnesota and Wisconsin isn't a night game, I could see that being an option easily. This is where it starts to round up at. Wow, Iowa's up to 17. I'm surprised they aren't higher, but they're going to have to keep giving them chances if Nate Stanley really keeps getting his game on. And Notre Dame's still at 16 just because they had a blowout win last week, and that's pretty obvious that they had a blowout last weekend, and it was at South Bend, and just a tough place to play after their tough few losses they had this year, especially to Georgia. And then at the Big House last month, they got destroyed by Michigan. So I'm not surprised by them being still at 16th in the nation. It's the same as last week, actually. So that's a small world. Notre Dame stays at 16. Let me see if I can. Memphis is 9-1. Cincinnati's down 2 because it's kind of an American Athletic Conference, just because it's kind of a weak conference. That kind of downs the committee a little bit, and we'll see if they really get into a really big bowl game. But Memphis is up 1 on them, and they never moved out either, just like Notre Dame. They stayed at 18, so we'll see what happens. And Boise State also moved up 1, and they have 1 loss, so they're more than likely not going to get to a New Year's Six bowl.
Cincinnati was a spot ahead of Memphis last week. Cincinnati played another close game against USF. Their field goal kicker won another. They played East Carolina very close. And then Memphis beats Houston, blowing them out in the second half. And so the committee says, right now we believe Memphis jumps ahead of Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati has not lost in the American Conference.
But it might not matter who's ahead of who, because they are going to play each other in a couple of weeks, right? And then maybe again, depending on everything.
Memphis and Cincinnati might actually play each other in their own conference championship game, they're saying. I really believe that. That's going to be a good ranked matchup if that happens. Oh, Michigan, they moved up to 13th. They are steps closer to a New Year's Six bowl. I'm excited about that. We're up 2 rankings. Just like that, we're hot at the right time.
Michigan still climbing up, by the way. They've been dominant the second half. Penn State moving forward, that's been a dominant football team. Then Florida's still there. Remember Florida's 2 losses, guys. 1 LSU, 4 Georgia from last week. The rankings could change this week.
Yeah, Florida's kind of stays permanent. I mean, Felipe Franks is out for the year. With them losing to Georgia, I don't see them getting out of the 15 zone. So they'll be at the 10 to 15 area if they don't have any bigger competition the rest of the year. So I see that happening. They'll probably get into the Citrus Bowl or the Outback Bowl, something like that. So they're 11th in the nation, should stay. And if they actually lose one, then it'll be good for Michigan to maybe move up in the top 10. But we'll all see yet. But I am really excited. We are the 13th in the nation. I would never think after the Penn State loss, all the grief and the heartbreak after that one, that we would come back so amazingly and we could shock the college football world next Saturday at the Big House. And that will be for all the marbles. So that will be exciting if we beat Indiana this weekend, which that's a tough game. 14th, we have Auburn. 15th, we have Auburn. And then Baylor is down to 14 after losing to Oklahoma, which they blew a 28-3 lead, and that's the worst lead they've blown in team and school history. And I'm not surprised their ranking went down, but you would think it would go down a lot more. But with it being such a tough game, Oklahoma's just a tough team. Jalen Hurts really came back from the first half to be himself the second half like he used to be at Alabama. I kind of see why they're down 1, just because it did come down to the end, and if Baylor had a couple more scores other than their 28-3 lead, they still, I think, would have prevailed and win that game. And then 15th, Auburn. There's no surprise. Auburn's actually down 3 spots, and they're about to get their 4th loss if they lose to Alabama Thanksgiving weekend, which is their final regular season game, obviously, in the Iron Bowl.
Of LSU. Yeah, it was a close game.
Yeah, the ball was down 7 against Georgia. I mean, crazy.
Top spot in the Group of 5 conferences, which would get you a spot in a New Year's Six bowl, the Cotton Bowl, almost certainly. Auburn, they've got 3 great losses still in the top 15. Baylor
each other in a couple of weeks, right?
and then maybe again, depending on everything. They may beat each other up, and Boise State might be the last one standing for that top spot in the Group of 5 conferences, which would get you a spot in a New Year's Six bowl, the Cotton Bowl, almost certainly. Auburn, they've got 3 great losses still in the top 15. Baylor only slips 1 spot, David, after that loss to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and you have to respect what they did. I mean, it wasn't like Baylor went out there and didn't put on a good showing, so that's interesting. Michigan still climbing up, by the way. They've been dominant the second half. Penn State moving forward, that's been a dominant football team. And then Florida's still there. Remember Florida's 2 losses, guys. 1 LSU, 4 Georgia from last week. The rankings could change this week.
Within 3 points of LSU. Yeah, it was a close game.
Yeah, the ball was down 7 against Georgia. I mean, crazy.
Well, the Florida LSU game wound up being a 2-touchdown game, but it felt much closer than that throughout the.
Yep, the Florida LSU game, I like what the announcer said, because it was far closer than what everybody thought. They really put a dogfight and a really tough environment at Death Valley, so that was a really good game. That was actually early in October, so I totally forgot, since I watched that game, how good that game was. So Florida has faced some fierce competition this year.
They're going to be in the top 4 as Big Ten champs. So disappointed that they lost, but they still have big opportunities ahead of them.
Minnesota's only down to 10, so that's not too bad. They're down 2 spots, and they just had a tough environment at Kinnick Stadium, Iowa City. They kind of made that drive down south, and it just was a tough loss for them. It happened, so we'll see. PJ Flex squad really learns from them. They're kind of going kind of fast with the reveal, so I fast forwarded it.
Position Herb Street with Minnesota still in there at the top 10.
Maurice, it goes back to what you said in the open. I think it's all in front of Minnesota. Still the big game in the Axe against Wisconsin in Minneapolis. They win that Big Ten championship game. They win that. They're going to be in the top 4 as Big Ten champs. So disappointed that they lost, but they still have a big opportunity.
Ooh, Herbie, that is a really bold statement. If they beat Wisconsin, which is a really big game, as I mentioned earlier in this video, Thanksgiving weekend, and they go to the Big Ten championship to either beat Penn State and Ohio State, they will easily go to the playoffs. I don't know how you say they can't. They had a big win against Penn State. They would beat Wisconsin at home, which is still a big win. And then they would lose a close one. They would lose a close one last week to Iowa, but Iowa, like I said, is just a really tough team. Penn State's up 1, so they're ace. So they're gonna lock their spot up off at the New Year's Six Bowl if it ended today. And Utah stays at 7. So the article that I read yesterday, and then I did a video on it. Utah staying at 7. That's not gonna change. Oregon has a far better strength of schedule, and I actually couldn't believe Utah lost this week, so that's no surprise that they're staying at 7. Let's fast forward these.
Is the committee now going to view this Alabama team? How's Rob Mullins going to talk about Alabama?
All right, since I kind of have it playing from the beginning, here's the top rankings. No surprise, LSU stays put, number 1.
Coming up this weekend, they'll move to 11-0 before finishing up against Texas A&M. Just behind them, I assume, still going to be Ohio State.
The Ohio State Buckeyes will be number 2. That's also not a surprise.
The next 3 games, if they can win one of these 2, or this next game against Penn State, assuming they play in the Big Ten championship game in 3 weeks, where Ohio State can really bolster its resume, maybe move back.
The Clemson Tigers are back to 3rd.
Undefeated.
Wow.
Cruising. Nobody of note in their path. They'll have to go
But I suppose with Penn State being out of the playoff competition, Clemson will kind of bump up in the rankings since Penn State's still down, and then Minnesota also losing too. That's also big for them to go up in their rankings, and they feel better about their chances at the playoffs. Georgia Bulldogs are still at number 4. So wow. The Tide are 5.
Just behind at number 5, that's going to leave the Oregon Ducks at number 6. So at the moment,
And Duck Nation is at number 6. So we would have Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Utah will be in another New Year's 6 Bowl. Alabama will probably be in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma. Let's see how Oklahoma ended up here. Oklahoma's at 9, so they moved up 1 ranking from coming back, which that's no surprise just because the top 10 competition is really tough, and that's just how it's going to round out. And Georgia had a really big win last week in Auburn. It's a really tough place to play, and it was just so big that they won that one, and that somehow kept them in the college football playoff. But I mentioned in the last video, if LSU and Georgia play each other in the SEC championship game, the loser will get eliminated from playoff contention. Hear me again. The loser will get eliminated. They will be finished from postseason implications at all. So we'll really see if it's down to that, but that's what I'm seeing it as. And that's your top 6 for this week for November 19th of 2019. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. Stay tuned tomorrow for some picks for the couple of big games this weekend. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And see you all next time on the M Sports Hub YouTube channel.